Hello again, friends. So, in my most recent video, I was just talking about why I don't trust my mom. And I make videos to spread awareness based on like what has happened to me in the past, putting it out there so that people can learn from me. I read books and I talk about it. I talk about my past experiences from childhood, from my parents and everything, and I put it out there so that people could learn. I feel like it's so important to learn from others, to learn from our past mistakes, to reflect on our lives and to pay attention to the things that are happening. So I said why I don't trust my mom in my most recent video. And I said why in regards to like the things she would say to me. Now I'm going to say why I love and appreciate my mom. Okay? Because where there is darkness, there is light. Where there is good, there is evil. Like one can't exist without the other. You get what I mean? Where there's life, there's death. So like we have to pay attention, like, because everything matters. I was just making sure that we're recording. So I grew up with my mom. I have never met my biological father, which is something that like I'm okay to say because I feel like you can't miss what you never had. There are people that grow up with their dad and then maybe get abused by him and then wish that they never had a dad. I feel like it is how it should be, and everything matters. So I grew up with my mom, and my mom would always say that me and my older brother, my immediate older brother, who is like 3 years older than me, got the best of her. Because like even when I look at like baby pictures, which I'm gonna insert some like with like my mom, she's always just like looking happy. She was happy to have her boy and her girl. And then something happened where she got deported back to the Caribbean with her kids, and we ended up growing there. And I could see where that like anger could come from, which made her say those things to me. But that doesn't make it right at the end of the day, and that is why I talk about it. So, who I am today, I love myself, and that's really because like I spend a lot of time by myself. Like I've had friends, lost friends, had lovers, lost lovers. I feel like nothing lasts forever. Like you can't even relationships don't last forever. Like I feel like a lot of times people that stay in marriages for 40-50 years is really because they really love each other, and some is just because they decide to do it because of what they tell you marriages should be, and you just believe it till death do us part, whatever. So growing up, this is going back to why I love and appreciate my mom. She used to read me bedtime stories all the time. She used to take us out to the parks all the time. Till this day, I love stories. Like I love meeting new people. That also has to do with the day that I was born. I was born on December 5th. Like I said, if you pay attention to yourself and instead of like judging your parents, you really sit down and have a conversation with them. Like even things I learned about myself in 2021. I had a roommate and she used to talk about like, sun, moon, and rising sign and stuff. So I was like, Mom, well, what time was I born? I want to know. I wanted to know what time I was born so I can come up with my moon sign and my rising sign. And it just helps you figure out yourself. I like to say like don't dwell on it and don't make it yourself and be like, oh well, I'm a Gemini moon, that's why I'm like that. No. When I found out these things from my mom, like the time that I was born, and I made reference to it in terms of finding out what my moon and my rising sign was, and I reflect on my attitude, like the fact that I used to get angry so easily, I see it in my younger brother, who also has the same Gemini moon as me. My brother's a Leo with a Gemini moon. I'm a Sagittarius Gemini moon. And I think those just help you explain certain behaviors, certain characteristics of yourself. You get what I mean? Like just the bad temper, the willingness to just speak before you think. I reflect on my life. I could think of like boyfriends that I've had where I would say hurtful things, but then I could also be very loving because I'm a Cancer rising. I say all this to say, like, if my mom wasn't alive, I probably would not know these things about myself and able to like go back and see patterns and realize things and change things about me and form good habits. I've met a person who introduced a book to me by OG Mandino who talks about 10 scrolls. Like, I posted a video about that too. Like, part of me my mom conceiving me the way that she did on the day that she did has made me who I am. Like, mothers, especially to me, are so important. So I also think that as a daughter, you should want to have a relationship with your mom where, like, you call her. Like, why would my mom call me? Like, in terms of, like, to ask, she could call me and ask me questions about myself, like, how's my life going? But to find out information about who you are, your ancestors, it starts from the vagina you came from. Let's make that very clear. My mom's vagina. I would ask my mom stuff about my grandmother, because your genes are passed down, your attitudes are passed down. Like, you could read about these things, like things that your ancestors has suffered in the past can be passed down to you. There's a name for it. I'm going to insert the name somewhere because I'm going to edit this video before I post it. Who I am now has a lot to do with my mom. She brought me into the world on the day that she did, and I grew up with her. We used to have a good time. I used to go out with her to work sometimes. We used to be close. Like, I just talked about my recent video in terms of, like, why I don't trust her is because of what she would say. But even when I talked to her about it afterwards, she would say, well, the only reason why she said that is because she didn't want me to go through the things that she went through. Because life is hard. As an adult, I'm really realizing what she's talking about. Like, when you're growing older, you don't really pay attention to things until you do. Let's just put it that way. But because of how I grew up, my mom had me here, things happened, we got deported back to the Caribbean. My happiest days are from growing up in the Caribbean. So how could I regret that? You know what I mean? Maybe your happiest days from your mom doing something and then you having to grow up maybe with, like, your aunt or your grandparents, you could reflect on those good days and appreciate it, and that is because of what has happened. So, they say everything happens for a reason. Again, everything matters, and things just sometimes are as they should be. If you pay attention to yourself, who you are, your core being, reflect on the things that matter, and you don't just focus on materialistic things and relationships and trying to be tied to someone for the rest of your life, which to me is so fucking boring, you get to see the bigger picture. But yeah, I love and appreciate my mom because of how my childhood was. I could look at how my mom lived her life, reflect on it, and see anything that was bad, anything she did that didn't put her in a better position. I'm gonna avoid doing those things. I'm just gonna live my life for me and not blame my mom or someone for how my life turned out. But I will say, as parents, it's very important to treat your kids properly. And some people, like, will really live their life just taking out anger on their children. I've seen so many videos. I've seen a video of a woman beating her child with a phone to the point where the child's face was swollen, and those are extreme, like, very extreme. And I wish that on no one. Anyways, just to conclude here, my mom was my friend, and we do have a relationship. Like, again, I say, like, my bad temper and sometimes my overthinking can make it seem like, oh, well, my mom is the reason that my life is this way and blah blah blah. But you have to take accountability for your life. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I've seen extreme things. Like I said, again, in my most recent video, I have a cousin who, she's constantly saying hurtful, bad things to my younger cousin, who's her daughter. And I would never stand for stuff like that. I feel like if you slip up and you say some shit to your kid one time, but like just constantly saying horrible things, and she's a Gemini, by the way, it just shows like that was like a pattern thing that I've seen in my family. There are a lot of Geminis. My grandmother was a Gemini, my mom is a Gemini, my cousin is a Gemini, and I have an ex-boyfriend who's a Gemini who was so rude. My brother, like I said before, he's a Leo Gemini moon, rude as hell. And again, people be like, oh, I don't believe in zodiac signs. It's not a thing that you have to believe in. It's something that shows patterns in people. Like, let's just make that very fucking clear. But yeah, so my childhood was great. I didn't grow up in Canada. Probably if I did grow up here, I wouldn't be so free spirited. I would definitely be a different person. And I love the person that I am today. So I can't regret anything that has happened in my life. Again, I said this before. There's a point in time in my life I didn't used to talk to my mom. Like, I used to call her literally when she tried to talk to me. Like, I would be so upset. It's like, you're the reason why my life is this way. And then last year, 2023, or even before that, 2021, I would say, when it really started, enlightenment happened for me, where I just started like putting two and two together. Like I said, I figured out what time I was born, and that was just like one of the ways I was able to understand like the patterns of my behavior. And then, I just got better after that, just always reflecting on things that I've done, jobs that I've had and I've lost because of my bad attitude, thinking that things are supposed to go my way all the time, and that's just not how life is. When you're living life and you're dealing with people are so different. And zodiac signs are just one of the ways that we can see the patterns of the difference in behavior in different people. First, it used to just be one, oh, I'm a Sagittarius, and that was it. Now we can go so far because our parents at least know what time we were born. Before that, my grandmother probably doesn't even remember the time she had my mom. You know what I mean? So it's like, as we come together using social media and stuff, and like just being able to call my mom from WhatsApp and FaceTime her, like it brings us together. It helps us like understand each other better. And I think what's better than that? What's better than communication? To understand means you have to communicate. I was even talking about this earlier on my Snap, where it's like we prefer assume, just like we assumed before that the black race was like the most illiterate and we're the smartest people. You know what I mean? And everything is just coming to light. Why? Because we communicate with each other. We embrace each other. We uplift each other. And that's what like we have to do all around, even with our relationships with our parents. Like if you want to know something, you call your mom and you ask her if she's alive. Like, some people aren't even fortunate to call their parents, and you do. And you are choosing to say that, like, you're stepping away and you don't want to talk to your mom because this, that, and the third. Talk to her and ask her why she's this, that, and the third. Ask her about your upbringing. How did you come to life? If she thinks she doesn't like you, call her and ask her why she doesn't like you. Develop yourself. You know what I mean? Understand yourself. Conquer yourself first. But yeah, it's important, okay? Indigenous culture, from taking indigenous classes in university, has taught me so much about togetherness and the power of words, because they didn't use paper. Everything they knew was verbally passed on from one generation to the other, from their elders, not the elderly, from their elders to their children's kids to their kids' kids. And that's how they did it. They were very spiritual, wonderful, beautiful people, until colonizers, white people, came and destroyed their lands. And this is why you have Canada and the US as it is right now. Something I didn't know. And I like to constantly like make sure that I say these things, because a lot of people don't know these things. Because if it's one thing we all know when the fucked up shit happens and people are becoming enlightened, we try to come up with all the ways to keep people focused on the bullest of shit so that we don't reflect on things that have happened in the past, because we put indigenous people in residential schools, we raped and murdered them, and then we said sorry, so it's okay. No, it's not. And people need to know these things. It's very important. History matters. Karma's a bitch. And not all, there's so much delayed karma. You know what I mean? When I say reflection and paying attention to things, like, I don't even know what people pay attention to. Like, these days everybody's just focused on the bag. You know, I'm getting my bag, my nails are done, my hair is done, I have a house, I have a husband, and that's all that matters. No, it's not all that matters. Everybody matters, everything matters, we all matter. We're supposed to love and care about one another and conquer ourselves. You conquer yourself first before you worry about anybody else. You conquer yourself by reflecting on things that happened in your past. To understand things that happened in your past and to understand your ancestors is to call your mom and people who have lived before you and communicate and ask questions. If you care enough. If you don't and you just want to live your life doing all the bullshit you've been doing your entire life and then just die, whatever. I feel like enlightenment really happens in phases. For some people it happens faster than others. It really depends on what you really care about. But yeah, I had a beautiful childhood. I love stories. I write stories on the Medium, which you can find in the link in somewhere on my YouTube. Like, it's really just in the link section. I write stories when I feel like it. I haven't been focusing on it so much, but it's only gonna get better. I love meeting new people. I love the day that I was born. I love the person that I am, and I have my mom's vagina and her to thank for who I am today. And so I'm grateful, and I love and appreciate my mom. I think she's very beautiful. And again, the video before was just to really talk about my cousin, you know, saying hurtful things to her daughter, and to just say that, like, it's not good to do those things. Do I trust my mom completely? I don't trust anyone completely, but do I love her a lot? Absolutely. So just to clear that all that up, and yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and subscribe so you can, like, hear me talk some more and watch me paint my nails. But learn. It's really about learning, right? I love to learn. If you love to learn, we should be friends.